Hi everyone, it's me again, live. I am actually live in Toronto right now. It is 7 o'clock in the morning here in Toronto. Beautiful day, so I can't wait to get the day started. But before I do that, we're going to have an awesome hour with the amazing Dr. Philip Mary, who is waiting for me online to come onto the show. And before I bring Dr. Mary in, just a little bit of an introduction on Dr. Mary. Dr. Mary and I have kind of known each other for a number of years, and he's been somebody that I really look up to, especially with regard to his groundbreaking work with how we are all connected and with intuition and things like that. I mean, I remember the first time I actually saw him speak was actually quite a number of years ago, where he was still doing his research on synchronicity, how we are all connected. And I was very much in the neuroscience space at that time, and I was doing a lot of neuroscience research. So I kind of looked at a lot of stuff in a very kind of Western approach. I was very heavily Western biased in terms of my kind of own research and perceptions. And he was talking about intuition and how we're connected and how we're touching and how energy transfer, and I'm like, wow, that's really fascinating. It's like, it's a little out there, but it's awesome. And now, like 5-6 years later, the amount of research that's pointing that Dr. Mary was spot on with regards to how we are all connected and how that really kind of works with regards to our connection to ourselves, with our hearts and our brains. And this guy was way ahead of his time with regards to what he was talking about. And so I want to share with you guys some of his insight. He has taught me so much about my understanding of myself and understanding about how we are connected. And so I want to use this opportunity to expose him to all of you guys out there in the internet world. So I'm actually going to go and bring him in right now. So Dr. Mary, you are now live with my audience. Say hi to my audience.
Hi, audience. This is Phil here. You can call me Dr. Phil if you like, but Phil, we know each other. Hi, audience. Good to be in touch with you.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's such an honor to have you on the show, Dr. Phil. I mean, it's we've known each other for a number of years, but I thought maybe what would be good is, my audience knows me, but they might not necessarily know you. So tell us a little bit about kind of your background. Especially, I mean, you've been in this industry for for eons. But kind of your evolution, right? What got you to the point of where you are today?
Okay, big question. I always like to say, tell me about your foreground, not your background, because foreground is kind of what grabs me, but the background is what brought me here today. And you're absolutely right. My foreground is actually bringing knowledge of intuition and synchronicity and connectedness and quantum field to modern day leaders. But as I look backwards, it's kind of all the stuff that led me there. So I'm a leadership and team I work with real individual team problems in organizations, and I've done that for 41 years in 61 countries. And I've got experience in organizations. I was OD manager for Reuters for Southeast Asia, set up all their leadership programs. I've done work in Sri Lanka. I'm originally a marriage guidance counselor and family therapist, which was a great grounding in terms of all the dynamics of emotions that go on with leaders and teams. So I literally have for 41 years been in the leadership space, helping organizations understand how individual leaders and how teams can perform better. And if I think about it, Marcel, that's really where you were at when we were doing the team building work. Everything I do, helping teams and leaders become better at what they do, and that's led me along the path to synchronicity and intuition and the quantum. I don't know how much you want me to go into that, but broadly from the UK, 31 years in Singapore, and that's my leadership background. I have a small company in Singapore that focuses on those sorts of issues. So that's the historical bit. Do you want me to say more about how I got into synchronicity and stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. Go for it. Yeah. So, I'm so
so
fascinated with with
synchronicity
synchronicity and the connectedness, right?
right?
So yeah, please. How did that all arise for you?
Well, I mean, these are strange words in today's organizations, but they are words that are getting more and more understood and talked about. I got into synchronicity because of miracles. All of us have the ability to connect with quantum energy to create miracles in our lives via synchronicity. So I've all my life had amazing experiences of wanting something, wanting to have something, and then that thing came my way. When I first set up my business in 1991, when I left Reuters as a leadership coach, I was thinking, where am I going to get my money from for my first year? How am I going to get clients? And Reuters, I'd worked with Reuters for 4 years, set up their leadership, and that's why I left them, because the work was done. But at the point when I was setting up my own business, Reuters said, in your business for your first year, can you give us 50 days consulting? There was my first year salary. 50 days, I was earning as much in 50 days. I thought, okay, that's weird. And then I said, my specialism is teams and cross-cultural understanding. Partner with people in that field. Within 4 months, literally, out of the blue, I became partner with Dr. Fons Trumpenaars, one of the biggest cross-cultural consultants in the world. I became partners with Meredith Belbin. For sure, his profiling system is #1 in the world. So I got into synchronicity as I was building my business, noticing these kind of things just coming my way. It was like I would intend for something, and somehow that connection would come my way. Came down to simple and small things as well, Marcel. So one afternoon, I remember here in Singapore, I was actually looking at my books, and I said, I need $15,000 to close the month. That was 10 minutes before 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, Dr. Trumpenaars calls me. He said, Philip, how are you doing? I said, I'm fine. He said, listen, I have a schedule to speak in Beijing next week, but I suddenly can't make it because I'm here would you speak for me next week? And I said, yeah, sure, happy to speak for you. He said, great. He said, and the good news is it's $15,000 payment. 10 minutes before 4, I need $15,000. 4 o'clock, here's $15,000. So all of these things began to happen to me. And as I read about this stuff, Marcel, most of the literature written about synchronicity was in the personal domain. And I said, hang on, how come nothing is written about this in leadership? Because when people go into work, they're no different. So it must happen to them. I wonder what's going on. So as I began to talk to my leadership clients, they said, Phil, all of my work and management and leadership comes from intuition. Please don't tell my boss, and please don't tell my team. So I began to realize this was deeper stuff than okay, I'm going to do my and that's basically what I did. I got deeper. I did a grounded theory PhD, which means that I actually interviewed people from the ground up and then developed my own model. So I'm still the only person in the world with a PhD, grounded theory PhD in synchronicity and leadership. And the more I started integrating this into my work, all sorts of people popped out of the woodwork saying, yeah, it happens to me, please don't tell anybody. And so I think what I'm really glad about, and you referred to this earlier, Marcel, 10 years ago, you would not see intuition as a leadership competence. You look at any leadership competence framework from all, and I work with lots of the big companies, you will find intuition there. And so we're in an era in the world when things are beginning to shift, and we're taking note of intuition and a lot of stuff about quantum physics, which I could talk forever about, but we now have that ability to sense a connection. Very simple thing. You got to stop me because I could talk about this forever.
I love it.
No. Stop me when you're ready. Go like that and say, Phil, let me ask you a question. The first thing I ask when I do these sessions with C-suite executives, so I work with very senior leaders, I'll say, okay, how many of you have had the experience of thinking suddenly of a friend you haven't seen for a long time, 2 days later, they call you? Mm-hmm. Or how many of you have had the experience of being worried about your sister who's halfway around the world, and you wonder whether she's okay, and you call her and you found that she's just got a negative assessment of her health? Mm-hmm. My PhD research, the fact that we are connected in a way beyond normal logic. And the more I looked at it, my theory is, and my confirmation of this, is that quantum physics shifts us away from logic only, i.e. just the head, to logic and heart connected. Logic and feelings, head and heart connected. And that sensing of a situation we kind of lost with Newton 400 years ago. And we're in an exciting age where quantum physics is bringing us back to look at the fact that we are energetically connected. And that makes me so excited, because
I know.
If leaders are beginning to understand that we are energetically connected, think what that means to being a leader.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Let me stop. I've been wittering on for a while.
It's gorgeous. The funny thing is you talk about Newton, right? And actually, in my keynotes and my presentations, I talk about the Eastern versus West brain, right? And we both live in Asia, right? We both lived in Asia for a long time. And the understanding that we are Western trained people, right? We've grown up in the Western world, been exposed to kind of Western ideas, and the concept of science, right? Is still today based on if we can't see it, it doesn't exist. Right? And whenever we're doing research, we have to show what we're doing. We can't just intuitively know. That is not a ground for example, getting a PhD. You can't just say, I just know this. It doesn't work.
Or, Marcel, or we hide it.
That's
right. If you felt like you wanted to, you got to invest it in a new country, in your company, big company, and you got a choice between Cambodia or Vietnam, and you have a dream one night where Cambodia is of your world, and then the following day you see references to Cambodia all over the place. You can't go to your boss and say, boss, I think we should invest in Cambodia because I had a dream.
That's right.
We're still in a world which requires logical confirmation, despite the fact that we are using intuition, but we're not telling anybody because we still can't come out of the closet, as it were.
Exactly. And I think one thing I do find really refreshing, right, is and I talk about this too, is the fact now that the whole COVID affair, right? I think companies are starting to realize, right, that those organizations that have proven successful through this whole COVID experience is the connections of the people, right? It doesn't matter where people are using technology and their sense of connectedness, right, with each other, with themselves, but also with the organization, right? As those organizations that have the strongest connections also tend to have adapted the quickest, right? In terms of how they dealt with working in a very different way. And that to me is one of those reinforcers where pre-COVID and that pre-COVID world, a lot of organizations depended so much on this Western style thing, even Asian companies, on this Western style business management thinking of it's all about data, right? Data is what helps us predict where we're going to invest, what our strategies are going to be, and all of this kind of stuff. And there's always been a somewhat of a disregard, right? Like you said, of the and I call them intangibles, right?
Yeah, but let me challenge you, Marcel, on that. On the surface, absolutely agree with you. But in people have all Westerns based on their intuition. They just covered it up as logic. When I go around and start talking to people, they now feel a space where it's comfortable to talk about that. But you're absolutely right that Western-oriented leadership models were transferred all over the world as the only truth. Now, let's not be too critical, because logic and head decisions absolutely vital.
Yes.
But the reality is that as human beings, we are heart focused and head focused. If you thought about what did you use when you decided to get married, you didn't do a cost benefit analysis, did you?
No.
You actually went with the feeling of it. And the more I talk to leaders, senior leaders all over the world, Eastern or Western, but actually Asians are actually more comfortable with this. The more I talk to them and say to them, basic decision for a senior position. The guy on the left had all of the experience, all of the qualifications for the job. The woman on the right, or the guy or woman on the right, actually didn't, but you had this feeling and sensing, you know, this guy's got everything on paper, but actually I want this woman. And then you find out later that you were right. Or if you said to yourself, well, my heart says go with this woman because there's something about her that I think fits, but your head said, no, we want the qualifications and experience, go with this guy, and then 6 months later you have to get rid of them and $1 million payoff. So what I'm saying is that whatever models we use, all of these using of head, using of heart is already in the workplace. It's like, and it makes me laugh because consultants are, you know, they'll say, well, I'm bringing emotional intelligence into the workplace. To which my response is, you mean it wasn't there before? Consultants have this whole thing of they're introducing this new model as if it wasn't there. So as I'm introducing, and the more I'm pushing this door, intuition and synchronicity is like an open door, because people recognize. In fact, one woman came to me, senior executive woman came to me in Singapore and said, Phil, I have to say thank you. I've been telling my boss what you've been teaching us forever. My boss said, you're just an emotional woman. I don't trust your judgment. He said, now I understand what that is. Looks like you've frozen a little bit.
That's right. We got you back. Yeah. No, it's waiting for you to.
No.
That was awesome. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I know, right? Yeah, there seems to be a little bit of a lag in the technology there. But I think, I think it's okay. Yeah, exactly. You know, I feel the same way, right? So I think the beauty of what we're going to see in a post-COVID world, right, is I think there's going to be a lot more openness to you know having that conversation, right? You know, in terms of being able to another good example is feeling, right? You know, as you said, kind of like I mean, who likes to talk about how they feel? Right, and there's so many companies today where when you talk about how you feel, it can be seen as a sign of weakness, right? With some executives, because we all need to be in that kind of headspace, right?
I think the gift that COVID has given us, Marcel, is in reality all of the world has scared. The whole of the world has been scared, because if you get COVID, we're looking at the death toll all over the place. And so I think what COVID has taught us to think about is, before you can engage somebody coming back into the workplace, you can't just say, oh, welcome back after COVID, how you doing? Okay, let's get on with it. The workforce all over is in an emotional, vulnerable state. And if you're going to be a leader to engage your people, you've got to deal with that state that they're in. And that means you've got to begin to deal with you as a human being, as opposed to you as a taskmaster. And I think COVID has given us this gift of, we now have to understand that psychological safety in the workplace, free to be vulnerable, freedom of feelings. I mean, for God's sake, so many people are coming back to work who've lost loved ones. And if you don't know how to talk to somebody about losing your husband, losing your wife, losing your child, losing your mother, how the hell can you engage people? So, you know, it's almost horrible to say, but with COVID, we've been forced back to say, I got to deal with you as a whole human being, not just somebody who's in my team to produce results. And I think those that are doing that are winning.
I think so too, and that's what makes this such an important conversation, right? You know, especially today, because there are there's still so many people who might not be thinking in that space, right? Who might not be connecting with kind of that part of themselves, right? And so you were mentioning to me too, because I know you've been doing a lot of work in heart math, right, combined with synchronicity, and you were mentioning to me that you've really kind of been seeing an increase in interest in heart math, right?
For sure, absolutely, for sure, because I mean, heart math, has a brilliant program called Resilience Advantage, which I'm certified in to run, and we've been running and seeing a lot more requests for that. But it actually helps people understand, some of the heart math research, rigorous research, and I've been with them for 30 years. I first went to heart math in 1999, 21 years. Their research says that actually the heart sends more messages to the brain than the other way around. And their research points to heart coherence being the driver of making, being the driver of the exec. And they literally have a machine, have an app, not an app, machine. What's the word I'm looking for? Something that you connect to your ear, which measures your coherence. And when you're in coherence, your brain is in a better space and place to be able to function at a coherent level that actually drives things. And what they have found, the experiments they've done around intuition, is that the heart experiences the future 6 seconds before the brain. They've actually measured with people hooked up, their brain and their heart hooked up, being able to predict computer images that are coming. And they had to press a key to indicate when they thought a negative image was coming up. The heart did that 6 seconds before the brain. So I think, science is important about fruity talk. Somebody went out for a weekend and decided something. And heart math is phenomenal in terms of the 30 years rigorous research that they've done. Roland McCready, heart math, incredible what they've done. And so it actually helps me to be able to say to people, leaders I'm working with, your heart knows before your head what's going on, which is more of a head and heart. We need both, basically.
Exactly. It is synchronizing the both, right? I think that's what's having that conscious awareness, right, of what's going on. It kind of reminds me of like, for example, the fight or flight response, right? That a fight or flight response actually happens in 2/10 of a second. Right, but we only become consciously aware of the fight or flight response, seconds later, right? And that fight or flight response is physiologically driven, right? And it starts in the heart, right? The heart increases that heart rate to start preparing the body for increased blood flow, so we can either run away or fight. Adrenal glands start pumping out adrenaline. That's it. You lost me there for a second.
Yeah. No, I lost for a second, but absolutely. I also work with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm certified in Dr. Joe Dispenza work, and heart math and Joe Dispenza are connected. So it's the thought that drives the emotion, that drives the hormones, that releases the negative or positive hormones into the body, and the thought happens. And what I love most, and I've forgotten his name, you'll remember this guy, the guy who produced The Pause, The Gap. He was in a concentration camp.
Was that the author of Blink? The book Blink? Is that
No.
Okay.
No, this is an older guy.
Okay.
He wrote a book which says, I survived the concentration camp. He said the difference was the thoughts. And all of us as human beings, have that automatic survival instinct, fight or flight. Now, if you could pause, and you pause in a way that says, I can choose my destiny. So being able to resist stress, being able to build resilience is about mentally knowing what's going on and having that pause, which says, as human beings, we are having the ability to pause more than the animal. The lion sees a deer, eat. Whereas we human beings have that pause mechanism. I'm going to kick myself later myself, because this is one famous guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Quoted all over the world.
Well, we can Google it. Yeah, and then we'll put it in the broadcast.
So many people do that. And so I think part of the reason why that's important to control resilience is it actually leads you, therefore, into coherence. And when you are in coherence, it boosts your intuition. And I'm working at the moment to say that also boosts your ability to sense synchronicity. Because when we sense synchronicity, we are in touch with the quantum field. Quantum physics has the terminology called quantum entanglement, which says that you have more ability to be entangled once you're in that more coherent state. Does that make sense? So, I know you do a lot of stuff, right, in your work.
Exactly. And the way that I like to kind of articulate that is through body awareness. Right. And the more that we are connected to our bodies. Right. The more coherent.
How do you do that? How do you do that, Marcel? What's your process to go through that?
So it's basically
well, I've seen.
So for me, it's about a process of think, feel, and act, right? Think, feel, and do it. And ultimately, we do all three of those things at the same time, right? We might not necessarily be consciously aware of all three at the same time, but our ability to align all three, to be able to think, to be able to feel, and to be able to act simultaneously with consciousness, right? With coherence, right? Is what allows us to perform at our best, right? That puts us in the performance zone, right? Is where I find a lot of people have struggled where they miss some consciousness with one of those areas. So there are people who live in a think and act space. Right, where they're consciously aware of what they're thinking and what they're doing, but they're not consciously aware of what they're feeling, right? And so for these people, it's all about, we need to be business first, we need to be task oriented, we need to be, these are the things that we need to focus on, and we're going to disregard things that have to do with feelings and all of that kind of stuff. And then there's a group of people who feel and act, right? Who feel something and then react. Potentially impulsively or reactively, reflexively, right? We're constantly responding to how they're feeling based on what they're perceiving in the world, right? And knee-jerk reactions, etc.
Just to interrupt you, is Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl. There we go. Yes, of course.
That's exactly what you were just describing.
That's right.
And reset, and Viktor Frankl brought all that to the fore. So how do you start to actually interrupt that action focus?
So it starts with awareness, right? And so I use a graph that I use with my clients to kind of help them understand it. But generally speaking, the way that I look at it is at the end of the day, we are bombarded, right? Every second with thousands of stimuli, right? Whether the stimuli come from our external environment or from our internal environment, right? The brain is bombarded with stimuli. And so when the brain receives information, right, from either from a person or from an experience or whatever it is, and that information enters the brain, that information is then processed, is basically intermingled with things like our memories, our biases, our kind of our ideas of the way we think the world works, etc. And that then creates an emotional experience. Right?
And that's through the amygdala, right? The amygdala filters all of it.
That's right. So at that moment in time, we have an emotional experience that then basically prepares the body, as we talked about that fight or flight response, which then kind of prepares the body, right, for whether it's going to act in a certain way. Because historically, like evolutionarily speaking, when we were cavemen, every experience would require some form of physical act. Right, so we don't necessarily do that anymore, but we're still genetically designed to have that kind of physical component, right, that we are prepared for. And the interesting thing is then the hormones and the neurotransmitters and all of that kind of stuff that are produced, that then changes the brain's attention. So the brain shifts its attention from the information that it received to the source of the information. So, for example, if we perceive a threat, if somebody says something that we don't like, right? We stop focusing on what that person said, and we actually start focusing on that person. Right? We say, I don't like that person because they said something that I didn't like, right? So we shift focus, and the moment that we do that, we then start strategizing, and this happens all in a few seconds. We then start strategizing, and how we're going to act, what we're going to do, right? And that's going to then create a reaction to that perception of information, which then very often creates some form of result, right? That could be favorable, could be unfavorable. And where people struggle, right? Because for me it's about the art of breaking that cycle, right? Is that ability to be able to pause, right? And I find that where it's the easiest place for people to do that is with the body awareness, right? How is my body feeling, right? We all know that we feel differently when we feel frustrated. For example, the body feels different from when we feel frustrated, we feel stressed, we feel angry. The body responds in different ways, and so it's learning how to read that, right? As like a barometer, right?
Yeah. No, for absolutely true. You and I are doing similar things. We always knew this, but I think that the issue is, you see, once people understand how the body works, and both work with George Dispenza and my work with Heart Math, does all the science behind this. The thing that's most important is for people to realize that because it's our ancestors, when they saw the lion, they quite rightly went into stress, fight or flight for a positive reason. But the issue was that once they'd conquered the lion or escaped from the lion, under a tree for 4 or 5 hours to recover. The problem with modern day life is that we go into one fight or flight mode, and then another, and then another, and then another, and there is no time to relax or respond or come back. Now, why the math stuff is so powerful is that they have very simple techniques tested over many years, which bring the person back to heart coherence, where the heart rate variability is regular. And they've had massive success with army, with police, with all of those frontline people, and health as well, which is where they're working a great deal, is to help them arrest, once they've had the stressful experience, to come back down to a normal, regular heart rate by simple breathing techniques. And they have 7 or 8 breathing techniques that they've developed. One of them is to enhance and improve intuition. And the beauty of what they have is that this is done with eyes open, in the situation, in the now. You don't have to go to a monastery, you don't have to go to a mountain. So if you and you're head of manufacturing, I'm head of sales. If you and I are in conflict, and I use heart rate variability techniques from Heart Math, as I'm talking, I actually am also regulating the heartbeat to move into coherence in the moment. And why Heart Math is so popular these days and getting more and more popular, is that I don't have to switch off. I can actually, in the moment with you, bring coherence. And powerful thing to see. I did a session here in the Ministry of Health in Singapore last week, and I had 45 people, and they're going to pass that on to 900 people, doing 2 simple heart math techniques that bring them down to coherence. And I think that's the crucial thing. This guy that we got, Viktor Frankl, I mean, he just said it so well. It's the consciousness, and probably this is the frontal lobe, able to interrupt the emotion. But to do that, you've got to know what's physiologically happened with your body. Let me give a simple but powerful example. I was tested for COVID-19, and I went to the doctor. The doctor said, "No, you don't have it." A week later, I went to the doctor. He said, "Yep, you got to go for a test." Immediately, he said, "You're going for a test." I went on a million thought process that happened. Once I get into, I'm going to be tested positive. I'm going to go into the hospital. I'm going to die. My wife, I've given it to my wife. She's going to die too. And that was in a millisecond. So I had to think, hang on, I teach this stuff. And I actually literally had to stop the process and get my heart into coherence. And I did that exercise before I received my results. Like 3 days, thousands or hundreds of times, I think. So I think mastering this ability to get ourselves into coherence then enables us to move into that quantum field connection much more powerfully. And I think that those organizations in COVID-19, they are the ones that when the workers come back, they're able to hang on, manage this in a whole different way. And we had a question, I think, earlier, Marcel, from one of your attendees who said, "I just can't do this. I can't get into positivity. I still feel stuck."
I'm actually just putting it up right now.
All of this. Okay.
So Gokhan,
intuitive.
You got the and actually so is he. So Gokhan, thank you so much for sending that in. I think he sent it as well, and he posted it up right away. So, but so it's hearing about coherence, synchronicity, and intuition. Which is, he said, I have a question, right? How does one self-empower, self-inspire, and self-energizing, utilizing synchronicity, intuition, and neuroscience when it's challenging during hard times and when external support is not available, such for example as coaching or something like that, if that's not there. And it's a good question, right? So basically, how do we self-coach ourselves through that process? What would be your
It's a great question, because you can't just suddenly switch it on if you are in what I call the refractory period. I don't know, you know about that, Marcel, I'm sure, but the refractory period is the time that it takes for the negative chemicals in our body to work out their way through the body. And it's Gokhan, right?
Gokhan,
Gokhan, you can't suddenly snap your fingers and get out of it. If you're still feeling negative, and I have to admit, in this last 5 months, I've had days where I can't get out of it. And that's because negativity has flooded the body so much, and the chemicals of negativity have flooded so much, you're still in the refractory period. And I've written about this, and I've called it post-COVID exhaustion syndrome.
I'm actually just putting it up on
the screen
right now.
Back into feeling positive. So many people have talked about that. And so some people, they can switch out of negativity pretty quickly. But you have, in my experience, it's not a quick, sudden thing. You have to practice over and over again and be kind to yourself, because there's a lot of expectation, like COVID is nearly over for some of us, not for others. And I should be feeling, no, you can't, because there's still the negativity flooding through your heart, your brain, your physiology, and you have to give time. So it's not easy, Gokhan, and you can't do it immediately. All I would say, practicing little by little to see something that begins to help you get rid of those chemicals that are flooding your system is the way forward.
And I think Yeah, I agree. I think when you're looking at self-energizing and self-coaching, right, yourself through this process, it starts with that self-awareness, right? Is are you able to do that self-check on a very regular basis? And I think that's the big exercise, right? Is can we go through life? Can we go through our day? Can we go through our challenges? With kind of one ear listening maybe to what's happening in the world, but having that other ear kind of always having that finger on the pulse, right? To kind of say, how is my body responding to my perceptions right now? And is, if I start feeling my heart rate go up and I start feeling my body tense up and I start feeling that is a sign, right? That I'm starting to become affected by my perceptions and my thoughts and my ideas. And can I then use? Yeah.
Right. That's a sign, Marcel. But the biggest sign is your thought, because your body is only getting tense because of the thought. Now, in these 3 days when I was waiting for my COVID-19 results, I immediately went into breathing because I knew that works. It brings me down. Did it work the whole time? No, I was in hell for 3 days because the thought came, what if I die? What if my wife dies? So the thought is the thing that needs to do, because the thought creates the emotions that flood your body with negativity. And it's just that reassurance that we as humans have the ability to do that. And we can't do it straight away. If you're scared and if you're in a negative state because you're COVID, how can you immediately bounce back? You can't. But what we know is that over time, you will come back to a place where you're more able to deal with that. And I think getting help very often is one of the ways forward with this. But you say awareness, and I fully agree with you. But I think people have so little awareness of how stress enters the body. And thoughts are where you need to start first. Oh, I hope that helps, Gokhan.
Yeah, I know. I call it separating fact from fiction. Right, because that's the emotional experience, right? That's where when information enters in our brains and it gets intermingled with other thoughts and memories and biases and all of that kind of stuff. It becomes kind of its own beast, right? And that's what creates that emotional experience.
Marcel, it's so interesting because a very good technique. Thank you for reminding me of that. When I was in the COVID-19 3 days waiting for my results, you know what I did? I actually said, hang on, let me look at the statistics. How many people actually die? And somehow that factual focus begins to lessen the... But if you begin with this strong emotion and that guy's everything, not a good idea. That's where the heart needs to listen to the head and the facts. And that actually helps in terms of, is this fantasy that I worry about actually going to happen or not?
Exactly.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and I remember seeing a great TED Talk kind of on the subject of fear. I don't know if you've seen it. What's her name? It was brilliant. And basically all fear is a story, right?
Renee Brown.
That's right, Renee Brown. And the story that you tell yourself, right? When you're afraid. And do you have the ability to change that narrative, right? Do you have the ability to change that story? Because ultimately it's your story. Right, and that's part of that separating fact from fiction. I love that, right? Because we're the directors of our own stories, right? So but you can only do that, once you're in that state of coherence, right?
In that space. The other phrase, which is a great phrase, which is the book, which is feel the fear and do it anyway. So many people lose out in life because they are fearful of doing that one thing that could change their life. But if they're afraid about what people they may say, then it's not going to happen. But I get people to say, look, if you didn't take the risk and do that thing, how would you feel for the rest of your life? And the research by Susan Jeffers in her book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, that people were more afraid and in anxiety if they didn't do it than if they did do it. And she had an mantra which was, whatever happens, you'll handle it.
That's right.
That's right.
So you got to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where self-belief becomes so important too, right? Kind of just having that inherent knowledge that no matter what life's going to throw at you, you're going to be fine, right? Because you have the skills, you have the ability, you've gotten to where you are today, right? Because you're an incredible human being, right? So whatever life's going to throw, you're going to be able to manage it. You're going to be able to deal with it. And having that constant kind of reminder, that constant sense of self-belief. Is what,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
But sometimes though, Marcel, that goes. I mean, I'm 70 years old. I've been in this business for 41 years. I've done lots of great success. Appeared when I got my COVID-19 test. So it's kind of also saying to us that no matter where you are in life, you still got to learn these lessons. The fear is always with you. Is how you handle it that matters. And so I got through those 3 days, and I was negative, but I tell you, it was pretty awful. So I think, and this is the biggest spiritual lesson, I think, is that the stuff that scares you, the stuff that comes your way in a negative sense, is always coming so you can learn through it, you can deal with it, and you can move on. And I think probably those lessons go on till you die. I've been fascinated by the fact that if you think about it for 5 or 6 months, and even now in some parts of the States, obviously in some parts of the world, the big numbers kept coming up, so everybody was afraid of dying. But in that whole period, Marcel, did you ever see one TV interview or one article about facing death or about dying? I didn't see any. But that was the number one thing in the world that people were afraid of. And so I think the thing that, and I did a video on this because it just amazed me that nobody talked about it. I think the thing that COVID also is helping us think about is, how do you face death? And because that's the ultimate fear of this last period. And I think it's drawn us to think about that. And I'm not sure that many people have.
Do you think it's Okay, do you think it's really kind of a fear of facing death, or is it fear of facing death alone? I mean,
could be both.
Because I think that's one of the big issues, right? Is that you're in a hospital, and people can't come and visit. You can't see your loved ones. You can't, you pretty much know that if you're going to be on a respirator, that there's a 70% chance you're not going to make it, right?
And Marcel, I think you're absolutely correct. The more I think about this, it stimulated me to think about this when I saw these awful pictures of a husband not being able to be with the wife when they passed on. And I couldn't not, I didn't deal with that well. And then I said, okay, the thing I'm going to do, every time I see a situation, I will repeat the names of the person who passed on, and I will say a prayer for that person. Because I had to engage with, I agree with you, Marcel, this was the most awful part of COVID-19. People dying separate from each other.
I think so. And maybe that is from a kind of synchronicity standpoint, right? That makes sense, right? Because when we are with the people that we are most connected with, right? We're going to feel safe. We're going to feel most comfortable. That's going to be our kind of, and the moment we are in a state of isolation, we the ability to connect with the people we love becomes a lot more difficult, right? And so it makes us feel alone, right? And I think that's ultimately one of the big challenges, right? Is how do you feel?
That's true.
How do you feel connected even when you are not physically together? Right? That's a big conversation. Maybe that's something that a bigger conversation, right? In terms of when we are facing death, for example, and things like that, which is a normal part of life. right, is having that understanding of how do you feel, what is required, right, from us to, and I'm getting very philosophical, but what's required from us to, well, no, you're looking from science, which is brilliant.
Because actually, that's exactly the thought. That's exactly the thought that I had. Is that because we know that the heart is connected. Heart math, I've actually measured this. And so you can actually connect with somebody's heart. And wherever I could during this last four or 5 months, I help people to say, look, go stand outside the hospital or outside the ward, look at your loved one and send heart-to-heart feelings to them. Because heart math has shown through their research, they are connected. We're heart-to-heart connected. The heart is 10 feet outside the body, is connected with a magnetic field to somebody else, and I think that's a crucial thing. This is where intuition and synchronicity come in, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even stronger.
Absolutely beautiful.
Wow, wide-ranging conversation, Marcel. We've touched it.
I love it. You know what? It's
conversation. Are there any topics we've not looked at?
I think we've pretty much covered everything that needs to be covered. I don't see any other questions coming in. So I think we'll call this a day. I hope the viewers really kind of got to learn something from this and got to hopefully commit to apply it. Now, how can they learn more? Right? How can they learn more from you, from heart math and stuff like that? If somebody is listening to this and kind of going, hey, listen, I want to engage Dr. Phil. I want to, what would be a good way to start?
Go to my website and look at that. I would encourage people to go to Heart Math website. Because they have incredible white papers. The research is really open. There's no organization that shares its research more than that. You will understand there's a lot more. And in talking to me, phil@philipmerry.com. I will answer any questions. Gokhan probably hasn't had his question fully answered. I'm very happy to engage with anybody to do that. But the thing I'd say more than that, Howard Marcel, is to actually listen to your heart. Bring heart and head together. Stop pushing down what your heart is saying. You need your head, you need your heart, you need your thinking, you need your feeling. And the way forward in this COVID-19 period, wherever that is actually to connect those two, because when you connect those two, you're able to see more synchronicities arising. The research that I did said in periods of change is when synchronicities happen the most. So pay attention in your life to anything which comes out of the blue. Because if blue, that's telling you. And the final thing to say is that at the end of every synchronicity is a miracle waiting to happen.
Beautiful. What a great way to end this episode, and I agree. It's the best way to connect with others is to connect with yourself first, and then use that energy to make sure that you are connecting with people using the heart and the brain as a great way to communicate. So Phil, thank you so much for attending and for joining your knowledge, and of course, audience, thank you so much for joining us again today. I hope you enjoyed it. Join me on the 23rd of July for another amazing episode. I'm going to introduce you to two amazing female leaders who are in Argentina teaching empowerment to women who are in prison. And they do this through sport, and it's a phenomenal story. I had a phone call with them the other day, and it brought me to tears, the amazing work that they're doing. We're going to broadcast this on the 23rd, so join me for that one. That will be an amazing. So thank you, everybody, and see you next time. See you. Bye-bye.